All right, hello world. Um, so we're just gonna talk about Ranni today. Generally, when people talk about Ranni, usually they're talking about her doll body. They're talking about the Snow Witch. All that jazz. And generally, like when we're looking at Ronnie's kind of like visage here, there's not much to speculate in lore, but I do think it's really cool that her dress is more based on the Raya Lucarian's robes and Renalla's robes, so they're very much still within the realm of being inspired by like academic robes and between the like 1400s and 1800s. So we won't get into like the exact names, like real world examples. When I first looked at this, I kind of assumed it was just like a regular dress, maybe something more similar to this, right? It kind of just looks like a regular old dress. Like imagine this without the cape, that'd be kind of similar. And then I was like, well, what if it's more like her witch robe? Um, but it's not. It really looks different. And so in reality, what it is probably the most similar to is the Carrion Scholar's outfit. So we have, it's hard to see, but we have her visage, the Scholar's visage on the Dectus medallion, and we also have her on the Carrion and Berta statue, and the Carrion statues that are in Raya Lucaria. So if you go, I can show it later, but if you go there, there's the upright statues. So the biggest difference for this scholar, however, and Ronnie's is that the arms would have been different. So it's kind of hard to see, but in the middle, right below this arm that's kind of disintegrated, you can see a little bit of red. That's her stole, but you can see these kind of bits of fabric. Those are more than likely. Oh, you know what? And I don't have the lazuli ropes. Oh well. It's more likely it's this like sleeve piece that's on there. So fun fact about these sleeve pieces, they are one-to-ones for sleeves from Cambridge and Oxford. So she would have had like a really long sleeve. And so I think it's I think it's these long bits of fabric that are really kind of alluding to that. She also has red and gold jewelry, which is very interesting. And also what kind of look like snakes on her like neck jewel brooch thing. I don't know. It's hard to see, but if you look around it, they look very, very snake-like on the edges. But yeah, it's like reddish. It could have been pink at one moment, but I would definitely think it's red. And again, you can see her red hair kind of crusting out. You can also see on her head too. You see this little bit of a ruff, or like a really high collar. So that would match probably the closest to the collar on the Raya Lucarian robe. So over here is where it gets really interesting to me. So you look right here, there's her hood. So, and if you want an example, so we actually do, this all ties into the astrologer robe. So you can see the lyra pipe that's on the edge of the hood of the robe. So lyra pipes generally kind of get confused to be, from what I know at least, and if anybody wants to say I'm wrong, please do. I'm not a fashion historian. But typically the lyra pipe is this edge where the little pointed end is. So the astrologers have it, and typically in history, it would have been something like this in the Middle Ages. But as time went on with the academies IRL, they changed into something longer. So let's actually. Yeah, so the Juvenile Scholar is a really good example as well. So you can see the kind of similarity in shape, but you see a progression, and that progression is mirrored in real life. So then we also have Renalis. So Renalis, and I'll talk about this more when I do my Renala video, but hers is obviously so it's showing her status, but it has that same lyra pipe. So you see that little edge on the bottom. That's the lyra pipe, and so then it's, the hoods are generally have multiple pieces. So you have the interior lining, you have the lyra pipe part of the hood, and then you have like kind of a mantle that it's all on. I don't know if mantle would be the right word, but like this kind of edge circular thing that's red, that's blue and lined with red. And we have a similar thing with Ranni's, even though it's all burnt or desiccated. I wouldn't know for sure. So you can see the red of her hood. So look, if you compare it to Renala's, it would have been similar because she's Carian, right? She's a Carian royal, so she would have had something that modeled after her mother. But again, her mother was the leader of Raya so of course it's going to be still within the kind of like academic designs. So then you also see right here this little kind of fabric piece that's kind of hanging down. That would have been the lyra pipe of the hood, but it's been pretty much unraveled and broken and messed up. So really interesting. It really reminds you, it's like, okay, no, Ranni's was a part of the academy. She was doing work in and around the Raya Lucarians. So it's really, really cool. What else can we look at? So her bracelets are also really interesting. They're the same as the pink jewel brooch, or red jewel brooch, excuse me. But they kind of, I mean, it's so interesting because like none of the Raya Lucarians have anything similar to that. And none of the Carians, neither, and none of the like Snow Witch stuff has any of that either. Actually, does the Snow Witch wardrobe set even have arm stuff? I don't think it does. Which of course makes sense because it's a four-armed thing. But it's interesting. What it does kind of have a similarity to are the pink jewels on Renala's outfits. Or pink and purple, excuse me, it's not pink. I don't know why I keep saying pink today. Her purple jewels. So we'll go look real quick, see what wall we can use. Not the best lighting, but you can see the purple. Let me go to, bam. So you can see these kind of jewels. So instead of it being on her glove, like it's Renala's, it's kind of like a bracelet. But then again, I would imagine her top brooch would have been in a similar position as Renala's. And again, like all of the Raya Lucarian robes and outfits are meant to assign a hierarchy, just as they would have in real life. So then obviously Renala's is hella complicated, hella symbolic, hella designed. And what's also cool is that we have these, so terminology is kind of hard to confirm, but you have on all of the robes, you have this like stole or scarf, and Ranni would have had that. So I think it's in her front right here. Yeah. So you see this kind of like looking at like, you know, this little scarfy thing. She actually has a little crisped edge right there, a little ripped up edge that's red, and would have, let me see if I can get the angle perfectly. You can see it right there. So if you're looking, just look at the brooch, and then you can see a little thing of red. Her stole would have been similar in position to Renala's. So that I think is what is shown in her outfit, that like it is to show that she was a very big part of Raya Lucaria too, that she would have been in Raya Lucaria, she would have had visited it many times. Now, the one thing I have trouble figuring out with Ranni is what color is her freaking robe? Is it a soft blue? Is it like a really like weird blue? Is it a white? Is it like white like the lazuli? But the lazuli robe, which is white because it's representing the Renala's full moon, which is pale, or was it black? Is this black actually the fabric color? That I'm not sure. And we do have again. So if you look, and thank goodness for the Arrow's Reach talisman. Oh, you know what? Do I even have that on? No, I don't. My initial guess is dark blue just because, yeah, so my initial guess would have also been dark blue. And we do have some blue-ish tones. There we go. So if you can see right there, imagine like school uniform blue, like that navy blue. I think it's navy. I think that's most likely what her color would have been. So you can see this blue tone on here. Hopefully, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, the colors are still similar. Because then I imagine this white is from this dirt. And fun fact, look at how much this looks like a moon. Doesn't that look like a moon? It looks like a moon. Oh yeah, see, look at, there's more blue here. You know what? Okay, we're gonna say we think it was a blue. We're gonna say we think that this is a blue thing. Now, if we want to get into the real questions that I have about Ranni, why is it all shredded? Is it because it was burnt? It looks like it was burned, right? I mean, I guess, is it possible the flame from the knives, because the knives have flames, right? Let's double check that. Yeah, did she burn from the inside out, right? That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, it's fiery. You know, obviously it's hard to tell with Godwin if he was ever burned too or anything, because obviously his spirit's the one that died, whereas obviously for Ranni, her body is what dies. So it would make a lot of sense that her body is the one that would burn. So I almost wonder then if that implies something similar to the Deathrite birds, if his soul was, Godwin's soul was literally burned. And I think that could be an implication with Ranni being burned. The other implication I've heard people talk about is, she probably, they probably burned her because they were ashamed, which is definitely possible, but I do feel like her already being so high above in the Divine Tower, having to use the Carrion inverted statue to get to her, I think they wouldn't have needed to burn her body. They were just gonna, yeah, I think it was a part of the ritual. I don't think there was a need for them to burn the body. So I do think that the inference is that, okay, she burned when she died. And also too, I think there's a level of, it's not just burning, right, with Ranni's body. Consistently in this game, a lot of the dead, a lot of the creatures almost turn stone-like over time. And as an Empyrean, I'm not surprised she would turn into this kind of stone, because who else is kind of stone-like when their bodies are all decaying? Radigan America, and obviously that's her dad. So, you know, I do think there's a little bit of that as well. There's a little bit of, okay, these Empyreans, if they die, they get a little clay-like, a little stone-like, a little, and I think again, if we look at which item, I don't have causation here, but there is a line of causation that like everything is connected, and I think that's in part of how people die. Why in this game, why they kind of turn into other substances almost, I would argue, or they tend to calcify. They almost seem like pottery. Yeah, so like definitely. I think that all ties into each other for sure. And I think a huge goal for them was to, again, really show the connections of everything and how when you're looking through historical research, you have to utilize all of the tools that are at your disposal. You have to look at the fashion, you have to look at the buildings, you have to look at the people, the myths, the legends. You have to look at them critically because we know that people are always trying to create history. You know, history is malleable, and we see that. You can't just use one cultural lens. Exactly, yeah. And I think it's just so fascinating how they utilized her body, because like no one nation can fully digest this game. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that for sure. Um, but again, also too, something I want to point out: Ranni's outfit would have almost assuredly gone to the floor. So that symbolizes hierarchy again. How are her feet? She doesn't have feet. Her feet are gone. So, or I mean, so one of them might be under here. I do think that's a foot shape. But again, it's really hard to tell. And I thought possibly it was an Albinaric reference, her not having this foot. But then we also see her not having her arm. So I think it's more to just show that she's been here a long time. Ranni has been here. So if Ranni, this started the shattering. Ronnie's been here an entire age. Her body has been here for a very long time, which is wild. Is there anything else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much covers all the things I wanted to talk about. I kind of wanted to use this also as a precursor for my Renala video that I'm hoping to release in the next couple weeks. So if you're on YouTube or anything like that, make sure you check it out. Because it'll be a lot more about the historical influences, what I kind of think they're trying to talk about with her robe. There's a lot of lore in it. Ooh, more snakes. So I think, again, that's also why I think there's snakes on Ron. Oh, see, now you can see it better with the Arrows Reach talisman. Hold on, let me. Yeah, those aren't snakes, but they have the swivels for sure, which is interesting. But in any case, yeah.